My fellow New Yorkers, there have been some questions about whether I, as a political novice, have the qualifications to represent you in Congress. So I'm going to give you a head-to-head comparison to show you how I stack up against my opponent, Jerrold Nadler. First, let's take a step back and think about what we want from our elected officials. Our lawmakers address a multitude of issues, from economics to foreign policy to social justice and technology, meaning we need electeds with the diversity of backgrounds which fosters the breadth of character and soundness of judgment needed to grapple with these issues. And to show you I have that character and Jerry doesn't, I prepared you a head-to-head top 10 list.
Yay!
Number 1, international exposure. I've lived and worked abroad. I taught English and developed software in Japan, and I've also lived in China, England, and the Philippines. I speak several languages, some quite well, though my wife does complain when I speak to her in Chinese that it gives her a headache. Jerry seems he spent most of his adult life shuttling between New York and Washington, and all he speaks is English and legalese. Number 2, diverse work experience. As mentioned, I've taught classes both in Japan and as a grad student at UCSD, and I've worked in finance and spent the bulk of my career developing software. I know how cloud computing and AI work, and have some idea as to how these technologies are going to transform our society. Jerry, he's a lawyer. Do we need some lawyers in Congress? Sure, but Congress already has 225 lawyers.
Why are there so many lawyers?
Right? Might it make sense to also have a few people with a deep understanding of the financial system or cloud computing and AI? Just a thought. Number 3, economics background. One thing which never ceases to amaze me is the fact that for a job with so much influence on our economic well-being, we elect people with so little knowledge of economics. I mean, would you trust someone to do your taxes who had no knowledge of accounting? Or trust a doctor with no medical knowledge? Probably not. Yet we do this with economic policy and get the same disastrous results, the same unintended consequences again and again and again. Is it any wonder that the bailout went to Shake Shack, Harvard, and the Ruth something steakhouse? Nadler was around for the 2008 bailouts. Did he and his colleagues learn anything about the mistakes made then? Apparently not. I've studied economics all my adult life and have a master's from the UCSD PhD program. Does that mean I have all the answers? No, no one does. Economic knowledge is continually evolving. But at least I know the questions and the trade-offs and can spot the obvious unintended consequences. Jerry's a lawyer. Number 4, cloud computing and AI. Did I mention that I have intimate familiarity with cloud computing and AI and have at least some clue as to how they will affect us in the future? Number 5, one of my favorites, able to top buildings in a single bound. Okay, neither Jerry nor I can do this, but number 6, seeks to topple buildings in a single bound. Got to give this one to Jerry. There's this project being built in our district called 200 Amsterdam. It's almost finished, yet Jerry wants to tear down the top 20 already constructed floors. Why? To defend our zoning laws. What are zoning laws? These are regulations that say what buildings can go where, but more recently, often that nothing can go anywhere. In New York City, these hallowed laws started in 1916 because people were worried that buildings like the Ansonia and the Apthorpe were ruining the city. Nowadays, we consider these buildings New York icons. But like 200 Amsterdam, there are always naysayers when they're being built. And zoning laws is one of the tools naysayers use to say no. What else have zoning laws been used for? Inequality, redlining. If we sought to apply zoning laws like Jerry wants, we'd have to tear down not just 200 Amsterdam, but 40% of Manhattan. Wow, Jerry, wow. But I guess without these complicated laws, which prevent us from doing terrible things like building housing, what would we need all the lawyers for?
Can you tell me more about zoning?
We're done with zoning.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure everybody would love to hear more about zoning.
Really? I have to do a very serious message for my constituents, so...
Sorry, my love. Zoning!
Number 7, earmarks. What are earmarks? That's when a politician wants to give a gift to someone, usually in their district, who might then want to give them a gift back. Jerry's far from the worst earmarker, and the earmarkers he doles out are for wonderful sounding things like medical research. Thing is, how much does Jerry know about medical research? Isn't he a lawyer? Don't we have agencies like the NIH with medical expertise to vet projects and award money? It gets even more suspicious when we notice that the institutions getting earmarks contribute to Jerry's campaign. Sounds a little like, what's that Latin thing?
Quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo. Number 8, Trevor Noah Show appearances. How many times has Jerry been on the Trevor Noah Show? Would you put someone like this on the Trevor Noah Show?
Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo.
So I know what you're thinking. I don't remember seeing Michael Madrid on the Trevor Noah Show either. And yes, technically, that's true. But I'm going to channel my inner Joe Namath here and guarantee that I will be on the Trevor Noah Show before this campaign is over. How do I know this? Trevor's a stand-up guy. I'm a stand-up guy. Trevor recognizes people who not only have wit and humor, but also substance. Did I mention I have 2 master's degrees and have worked extensively in cloud computing and AI? So I'm like 99.9% certain I'll be on Trevor, and that if we hadn't had this big pandemic thing, I probably would have been on already. But Trevor, just so you know, I only live a few blocks from your studio, so if you need a last-minute guest or something, I can bike down there in like under 4 minutes. Number 9, good guy to do your will. I got to concede this one to Jerry. I have no idea how to do will except maybe download one from the internet. And even though Jerry doesn't do wills most of the time, I'm sure he's been to plenty of cocktail parties where it was the main topic of conversation. So I'm going to give him that one. Number 10, diplomacy. Just in case you have any lingering doubts as to who's the better candidate, I'm going to show you that I'm the kind of person who can get things done. So I invite you to stay right there and join me on a Zoom call I'm going to have with Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to discuss a very serious bilateral issue. Hello, Mr. Prime Minister.
Hello, Michael. Please call me Justin.
Sure.
After all, even though you're just a congressional candidate, you do come from a large nuclear-armed country.
Well, yes, we do.
Ha, ha, ha.
Justin, one thing, your appearance is a little odd today. You kind of look like a giant stuffed polar bear.
Well, it is National Polar Bear Day up here in Canada, and I'm dressing up with all my countrymen, or perhaps I should say country bears. Ha, ha, ha. Notice the Canadian colors?
I did notice. That's really awesome. Great costume. So, Justin, I was wondering if we could have a quick chat about immigration.
You still have that? Between all the COVID deaths and protests, I didn't think anyone wanted to go to America anymore. Ha ha ha. Just a good-natured jest, my nuclear-armed friend.
Good one. Ha ha ha. So, Justin, did you see my immigration video?
What video?
I did an immigration video. It's got like 50 likes on YouTube, and it's about immigration from Canada. So I thought your age would have picked it up.
I'm sure they meant to, but...
Okay, no problem. I'll play a clip. Back in here. Hey, ducks! Hey, geese! Go back to Canada! So here we have some property damage going on, and here's another clip. You see the problem here? Illegally flying into the country, then having all these gosling running around and the goose poop?
Well, looks like you need less people cutting the grass.
Well, yes, but the point is, this has to stop.
What do you propose?
A net, a giant net, would catch the geese and fling them straight over to the Gulf of Mexico.
Aren't these geese returning to Canada? Won't you need another net in the Gulf of Mexico?
Oh, good point. Yes, we will. So on the financing of these things, with all the protests and COVID, we don't have a lot of money for nets. And since it is your geese, maybe you guys could put the bill?
You want us to finance the nets?
Yeah, sounds reasonable, right?
Sounds like the border wall. Did the Mexicans pay?
Well, no. I mean, Trump tried. He was saying, if you don't pay, maybe we won't let you play us in soccer. And they were like, oh, you mean we'll just have to play Argentina and Brazil instead? So it wasn't the greatest of arguments. But in this case, say the Maple Leafs were playing the Bruins in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup.
They're in the same division as if it never happened.
Oh, okay. So say the Edmonton Oilers are traveling down to Boston for Game 7 and border issues because of the geese means they can't get to the game and they have to forfeit.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So not like it's quid pro quo or anything, but
Quid
just,
pro quo. Quid pro quo.
You pay for the nets and we ensure no border issues, right? It's just like one thing and another thing.
Quid pro
And
quo.
both of them are really awesome.
Can I check with my Minister of the Finance and get back to you?
Sure, we can arrange something for next week maybe. And next time you're in New York, let's catch a Rangers game, eh?
Ha ha ha, I can think of nothing I'd enjoy more.
Thanks, Justin. That's great.
Thank you, Michael.
There you have it. If you want your next congressional rep to be someone with a broad life experience, who wants to put buildings up rather than tearing them down, who's not going to dole out earmarks and other quid pro quo, vote Michael Madrid. Thank you.